What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you guys probably already know, today was the shutdown day for XDefiant. Actually, I also heard that potentially it might be pushed back until the 4th. So if you are listening to this video, you might have a little bit of a chance, but honestly, I would just totally expect it to be shut down on the 3rd of this month, which is today. And it's hitting in a very mixed way for me personally, if I'm going to be honest with you guys. I really enjoyed this game, ladies and gentlemen. XDefiant provided a lot of stuff for me personally. It built a fantastic community. I met so many outstanding people, content creators, and also just, the community themselves, people who genuinely enjoyed XDefiant as a game and wanted to see it thrive and grow. It also gave me a huge boost when it came to, Twitch and also YouTube. People were really enjoying the content that we were posting about this game. And it also provided me with just nothing but pure enjoyment. I have not enjoyed an FPS game like this in a very long time. You guys know I am indeed a Call of Duty head, and although I love branching out to different games, I love all different types of shooters. But ever since the beginning of time, I've always been kind of hooked to that 6v6 style formula, and nobody really ever took a step in that direction. Every single time a game drops, they always point towards tac shooters, or, like a real arena shooter, like Halo, for example. That's pretty much it. But when it comes to Call of Duty, usually the competition either A, dies out very quickly, or B, they don't even try to step at Call of Duty in the first place. But XDefiant was one of the first major titles that was AAA produced, that was pushed out the door to mainly try to compete with the Call of Duty audience. And it was great. For the first time in a long time, we got variety within the scene. And we got a team that actually cared about us. It makes me sad because the Call of Duty community begged for years to have a game that provided two things: communication from the development team, a development team that actually cares about their community, wants to see the game thrive, and will work hard to make sure that all of those things are accomplished, and B, a game with no skill-based matchmaking. And XDefiant was exactly that, yet it seemed it just didn't scratch that itch. People didn't really want to stick around to see the future of this game, sadly. Now, it was many reasons, and many reasons rightfully so. The servers were a little wonky, hitreg was always going to be a bit gunked up, and sadly, the hitreg/netcode was going to be completely resolved around Season 3 or a little afterwards, because they actually stated they finally figured out exactly what was wrong, and it was due to, the coding that they had behind the scenes, and they had to go back and rewrite it, and things would have worked properly, but of course, right when we hear this information, Ubisoft went ahead and pulled the plug on the project. But again, as I just stated, people just didn't care for it, sadly. They didn't want to push through the netcode. They didn't want to grind through and see the end result of this game. We all knew what the journey was going to look like, but a lot of people just simply didn't want to stick around. It really boiled down to a handful of creators who, continuously kept up with the game, which was kind of a bummer because, like I said, the whole Call of Duty community has been begging for this. Absolutely everybody. People who hate the game, people who are shilling for the game. It doesn't matter what side you are when it comes to COD. Everybody has begged for the same thing: reduce skill-based matchmaking and communicate with us, actually interact. And also, people have been begging for an alternative for ages here, and we finally got that. Yet nobody kept up with it until major negative news would drop for the game. Again, not talking about everybody. There were a decent amount of creators who still stuck around and covered it, but seriously, you barely heard anything about XDefiant when it came to every single update they put out. It's to the point where if you ask people about XDefiant, they all think the developers are horrible, which kills me, absolutely kills my soul, because these devs were some of the best devs I've witnessed in a long time, and they are the reason why I critique and I view other devs in a certain light. I used to have a completely different mindset on how I critiqued how, developers handled their games, but when the XDefiant team came out here and showed us what could actually be between the community and developers, that has stuck with me forever. But as I stated, everybody thinks they're useless because nobody reported on anything. We had so many good, solid, great updates. And the way they handled the notes were phenomenal because they always explained every detail, even the stuff that they knew was going to be a negative or rough point, like netcode, for example. Whereas other teams would just completely ignore it and try to sweep it under the rug. The XDefiant team always made sure that it was public because they knew we weren't stupid. We see the problems. They know we see them. So they're just going to address it and keep us up to date and give us a realistic time frame. They literally told us it was going to take a year plus potentially to get the netcode in, complete shape. We knew what this journey was going to be. We knew the outcome. Like I stated, nothing was fresh information here. But sadly, nobody really covered it. To the point where, like I said, everybody thinks the XDefiant developers released a game that had horrible netcode and literally didn't do anything about it. They never fixed the factions. They never fixed the weapons. They never did any improvements to the netcode because, again, everything was kind of silent. It's almost like a bunch of sponsored people came on through, sweeped up XDefiant, and then it was radio silence afterwards. It was very depressing, and it's sad because, I don't even see that many people. I've seen people come out and make commentaries, but everybody who was discussing this game, there's so many who haven't even stated anything about the death of XDefiant. I don't even know if they know this date is here. But who cares? At the end of the day, all of us here, and a lot of other channels as well, enjoyed every last second of this game. We put in a lot of work, a lot of enjoyment, and we saw the potential the developers had and how much love they had for this project, as well as their community. And for me personally, I don't know about you guys, but those 2 points right there are probably the points that hurt the most. The fact that this dev team was so awesome, and unlike any other dev team actually kept up with us, and also the future potential of the game was just absurd. Could you imagine XDefiant a year or two down the road if they kept up with exactly what they promised, a map a month, always dropping a brand new faction into the game for every single season, and all the different factions we could have seen? They literally had every single Ubisoft IP under their belt that could have been directly transferred into an FPS game, and it could have been as quirky as ever because XDefiant was never meant to be a hardcore military realistic game. It was never advertised that way. So, obviously, all of these things fit into the environment. They fit into the atmosphere. Same thing with Splitgate or even the finals. Games like that where it's like game shows. And when the vibe allows it, you can go all out. And they could have went all freaking out. And the devs wanted to go all out. They did. They were so excited for the future. But of course, the people leading the charge were Ubisoft. They literally could have not had a worse publisher ever to go ahead and produce this game. It sucks. The devs were underutilized the whole time of XDefiant, ever since day one until the death. They had no support from Ubisoft, barely any cash. They had to work on probably the worst engine for an FPS title ever. They had to force the game out in an uncooked state because the suits saw how many people were really excited with the betas. Millions of people are tuning in. And instead of allowing the devs to cook and come back and, be ready with their game, they had to rush it right out the door. And the devs just simply weren't ready. The netcode wasn't prepped. They didn't have any time to put together any, fire looking cosmetics because they're too busy trying to make sure the game functioned. It was a disaster for them. And honestly, it sucks. I don't want to go crazy. I don't want to be rude or anything, but it absolutely sucks the way that Ubisoft managed XDefiant, because this could have been a great alternative. We see games all the time, like Splitgate 1 is still available to play. I mean, my goodness, like Insurgency Sandstorm. Like, guys, these games don't rack in that much cash all the time, right? Yet and still, the servers stay alive and you can play them all the time, and it's absolutely no problem. The fact that XDefiant got stripped from us, when honestly the numbers were going up, they were increasing. People were actually coming back by the time Season 3 became a thing because of how well the game was beginning to form. And they cut it at the worst time ever. I mean, Black Ops 6 was literally starting to get drilled, absolutely destroyed, and then Ubisoft announced, oh yeah, XDefiant is dying now. I mean, how worse of a time? Like, that was so stupid. But again, Ubisoft as a company is getting clapped. They're probably trying to make sure that their portfolio looks as professional as possible. And let's be honest, if they're trying to please shareholders and get people to invest and get cash, having a game like XDefiant, as much as we saw the potential as gamers, to the suits, it looks like a liability. It's not going to be a game that's going to produce anything for them. It's not producing anything right now. So it makes the portfolio look sloppy, when it could have made the portfolio look amazing later down the road, a year or two. But right now, Ubisoft doesn't need that. They need things that make them look amazing because they're literally in the shitter. So XDefiant had to take the cut. But do you want to know what hurts the most about this overall situation? The unnecessary hate that XDefiant got. It's absolutely insane. And I don't even see it in any other games. I've always seen, weird individuals who will unnecessarily hate games. Splitgate 2 has them. And pretty much all the games I've played previously that are, more smaller type games, almost indie developed style games, have always received that type of hate. But in XDefiant, it was absurd. I've never seen so many people prey on the downfall of this game just simply because they wanted to see it fail. I'm not talking about not enjoying the game and saying, you know what, this game isn't something I like. Sorry, I'm probably not going to end up playing it. Or even those who enjoyed the game, but there were negatives. Obviously, the game did have a lot of problems, and they would enjoy it, but they would critique the game and give constructive criticism. You know, I'm not talking about any of these guys. I'm talking about those who literally absolutely stalked XDefiant every step of the way, just to dunk on absolutely everything. Even some of the best updates, people would just not be satisfied whatsoever. And again, they weren't satisfied because they never cared for the game in the first place. They didn't care if it got better. They didn't care if it got worse. They just wanted to see it fail, and they wanted to see all the devs go down. And that mentality was so wild to me, but it was everywhere within XDefiant. And again, that is probably what hurt the most. But I will say, we had a very strong community. And although there were plenty of people like that, there were way more people who were respectful. And like I said, we built a stupidly solid community here. I want to take one last second to say thank you to all the developers who put in any amount of work on XDefiant. Whether you went ahead and tried to balance out the weapons, you worked on the maps, the design, whatever it was, the soundtracks. If you put forth effort into this game, I really do appreciate you. And just understand that although it's shutting down, there were and still are a lot of players out there who love this game, and it meant a lot to them. And all of these memories, friendships, communities that have been built off of this game would not have been possible without each and every one of you guys. So thank you, seriously. I had a blast with this game. But I guess this is farewell, ladies and gentlemen. This will probably be the last XDefiant video you will ever see on this channel. You never know, maybe later on, down the road, if anything happened, maybe, I don't know, I'll put something, but realistically, you know, it's done. And I think the sooner that we all accept it, the better it will be in the future. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like. If you hate it, leave a dislike. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. I post daily here at 8 morning Eastern Time. And of course, if you guys are interested in any of my live streams, I stream Monday through Saturday over on Twitch, starting between 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, if you guys are interested, go link that channel down in the description of this video. But as always, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.